Well, good morning. We do continue our live coverage of the Pope in America. Here he is at St. Matthew's Cathedral in Washington, D.C. He is praying before he will lead a prayer service with bishops here in the United States. And so we're going to keep our eye on this and bring you the very latest on the updates with the Pope as he continues his tour of Washington, D.C. right here on Local 10.
But let's go back in time a little bit. What everyone loves to see. Pope Francis reaching out to children, blessing them just a few minutes ago, giving this little one a kiss.
And here he is, continuing that mission, greeting the other hundreds and thousands of people who have lined up just to get a glimpse of him. They waited for hours for a touch, for an embrace, for a kiss. And look at the smile on his face. He's clearly very happy to be there to greet them as well.
Energized. And here's President Obama welcoming Pope Francis to the White House earlier, specifically on the South Lawn. Michelle Obama, the First Lady, was there as well by his side. They greeted, exchanged a few words before they stood together in silence while music played during that welcoming ceremony.
And then as the Pope left the White House after the ceremony for this parade, he met with President Obama, and then he got into that white Jeep Pope Mobile and met the cheering and screaming worshipers while being driven around there down Constitution Avenue. A fantastic scene as the thousands wait and finally get their glimpse of Pope Francis, and then he went to St. Matthew's.
And speaking of those thousands, here's another look at those big crowds, really showing just how popular this Pope Francis is. Thousands of people packing our nation's capital, hoping to touch him or just get a glimpse of him, or maybe that thumbs up.
And for the first time, Pope Francis speaks publicly in America. This all happening after the welcoming ceremony at the White House in the South Lawn. President Obama spoke as well. A very busy morning, South Florida. Hello, I'm Eric Yutzi. Local 10 has got you covered from every angle.
I'm Christy Kruger, and we want to get right over to J.C. Burchard, one of our news anchors, as well as Nikki Mohan, also both in Washington, D.C., where all these events have been taking place on this historic papal visit. Let's start with J.C. with the latest on the ceremony.
We sure are watching history in the making, aren't we, Christy and Eric? Washington, D.C. is just buzzing with excitement. People's lives have been made today if they got to reach out and touch the Pope or take a picture. It was quite the exciting morning, and we want to tell you all about this because this Pope became Pope in 2013, but this is his first trip here to the U.S., and only the fourth Pope to do so. So he started his day after a good night's sleep, leaving the papal nuncio, that's the embassy for the Vatican, but he didn't get very far. He didn't go straight from the steps to the car. Oh no, not this Pope of the people. He went straight to those security gates where people were just falling all over themselves to get a closer look, be able to touch him, be able to shake his hand, be able to take a picture with him. This Pope is known for tweeting and taking selfies, and he did that the minute he left the embassy to reach out to his people. That's his favorite part when he does make these entrances, not only here in the U.S., as we'll watch him do over the next 6 days, but even in the last 4 days as he was in Cuba. So he finally gets into that Fiat 500. Of course, this is our modest, simple, humble Pope. He doesn't have a fancy schmancy limo, but he takes that Fiat over to the White House. And we watched all the pomp and circumstance, the very formal welcoming at the White House on the South Lawn with the president and his family, the vice president and his family, and then about 20 to 25,000 invited guests who had tickets. And at that moment, we were waiting to see what would the president say when he welcomed the Pope, and how would the Pope respond in English, because we know he's not fluent, but both really spoke out and made some very, very deep remarks and statements about everything going on in the world today.
Holy Father, we are grateful for your invaluable support of our new beginning with the Cuban people, which holds out the promise of better relations between our countries, greater cooperation across our hemisphere, and a better life for the Cuban people. And, Holy Father, you remind us that we have a sacred obligation to protect our planet, God's magnificent gift to us. We support your call to all world leaders to support the communities most vulnerable to changing climate, and to come together to preserve our precious world for future generations.
It seems clear to me also that climate change is a problem we can no longer be left to a future generation. When it comes to the care of our common home, we are living at a critical moment of history. We still have time to make the change needed.
Well, set on that world stage right there, you heard the Pope get a little political, talking about the environment, climate change, immigration, marriage, U.S.-Cuba normalizing relations, and the president speaking out about those things as well. That's in front of everybody who's watching. Everywhere. You can only imagine when the two went for their one-on-one talk in the Oval Office. They met together by themselves for about 45 minutes. What did they talk about during that time? Hopefully we'll find out in the coming days, but I'm sure we won't hear all the details. But they did meet in the Oval Office. It seemed a little bit lighthearted when the entire press group was with them, but once again, they had some time by themselves. They've done this before. They know each other very well, the president and the Pope, and so they had time to talk again. I would imagine there was some things that were talked about in terms of biblical stories as well as political decisions. So we'll keep you updated on that. But then the Pope was only beginning. Here was what we had been waiting for all morning long. A lot of the visitors here in D.C. waiting since 4 a.m. in their spots. The Pope Mobile and the processional parade. He got right into that open air Jeep Wrangler made here in America, in Ohio, and he waved, he reached out to his followers, to his fans, to anybody who wanted to see history happening in the nation's capital. There were quite a few babies that were brought over to him by the Secret Service. He kissed and blessed those babies, and he continued all around the National Mall and the ellipse of the White House, making that way, because as he was traveling in that Pope Mobile parade, saying hi to everybody who wanted to catch a glimpse of him, he was making his way to St. Matthew's Cathedral, because right now what is going on and what we can see live pictures of is that the Pope is leading a prayer time at St. Matthew's Cathedral. 300 American bishops are there with him, and he will be speaking in Latin as he prays. He will take moments of silence, and then he will be speaking in Spanish as he meets with those bishops. There will also be a blessing, and there will also be a lunch with homeless people. This is a Pope that reaches out to the less fortunate all the time. We've seen him do it in the Vatican, in Cuba, and here in the States. You're looking at live pictures. A beautiful moment in St. Matthew's Cathedral. I had a chance to stop inside before the Pope arrived, and it's very much a formality of the Catholic Church. You hear the music, a very beautiful thing that we get to peek inside right now. But we have to talk about tens of thousands of people who have joined us in Washington, D.C. They've made the commute and the trek from all over the world, and especially in the United States and in South Florida. My colleague Nikki Mohan has been in the mix of all of it all morning long, meeting so many people. Nikki, I'm sure this was everything that they wanted.
You know, what a morning, JC. And I just ran into some folks from Broward. Wade, I want to talk to you guys. Hi, Wade, you're live on Local 10. We're going to talk to them in a minute. But first, I want to talk to Jasmine and Jennifer from Manassas, Virginia. Jasmine, how was it?
It was great. It was like a blessing when, I started crying. I couldn't stop. It was just a blessing.
Yeah, and Jennifer, you guys were right up front.
It was a beautiful moment. He was awesome. I thank him for coming to D.C. to see us, and it was beautiful.
What time did you guys come out here this morning?
Like 11 yesterday in the night.
You stayed here overnight?
Yeah.
With your parents, your little brother? Why?
Well, sometimes the ticket lines are really, it takes a long time, so we just had to come in the night.
Yeah.
So.
And you said you were a little disappointed you didn't get to touch him because he didn't stop along 15th Street.
Yeah, because of the securities, and they were like, you know what, because you might do something to him and all that. I'm like, well, I mean, we see a lot of, in the TV, you see him and then he's rolling around and nobody's just crying and all that. It's it sucks.
How was the crowd where you were?
they were like pushing us because like when he came around, they were like almost pushing us out.
Yeah. But you guys still got your moment. Jasmine and Jennifer, thanks for talking. My Broward folks, come on. Where were you guys? What did you see?
The bus for 22 hours, all the way from Cold Springs and Cold Springs.
How was it worth it?
Oh, it was worth it. You know, he's a great and humble man. That's what I can say. This Pope is great and he's humble.
Yeah, what did you see?
Great shots, great. I got a great video. I came all the way from Marathon in the Keys and rode the bus with these folks, so it was awesome. It was
How has the journey been?
Fun, a lot of fun. Very, very much fun. Great people. We've done quite a bit. We prayed and sang songs, and it's been a real adventure. It really has. It's been awesome.
We meet our friend from Tamarack.
Oh, we have Tamarack in the house.
Yes, from Tamarack. That was a great experience. One in a lifetime. So we came from Tamarack to the Archdiocese of Miami to come and join this group.
Did he stop along your route at all?
Just a little bit, but it was worth it. This is my third Pope in my lifetime. And I got the original cap from when the Pope came to Miami.
Wow.
Right. Then I caught up with the other guy in Cuba. And so now I'm on number 3.
I'm number 2. You're number 2, yes. I made John Paul II, and then now Pope Benedict.
Well, thank you so much for stopping to say hello. Good to see you guys. As you heard, emotional. Oh, thank you so much. Emotional moments here for the South Floridians. They were in the front of the crowd, and as you heard from the young people, just a moment they will never forget. Let's show you now. It's clearing out. There's some people hanging out in the park, just sitting down, waiting for the crowds. There was also a screen that people watched on. We have people there carrying flags from different countries. A great morning here. This Pope Parade lived up to everything everybody expected it would, and was worth, as you heard the young woman say, spending the night in the park to witness. Eric and Christy.
All right, Nikki, thank you so much. I'm seeing all the people who are leaving your area. They're coming my way right here by the National Mall. This is also where all the food trucks are located. So everybody's ready to have some lunch now that they've seen that moment in history and got a glimpse of the Pope. We got to see so much more of him than we even imagined with that parade, like you just mentioned.